Hi, here's a book that's about two of my most favorite things. One of them is penguins, and the other one is Christmas. Peppy and Poppy search for Santa. Peppy was a penguin, and he lived at the zoo. He hated his concrete home. He hated the way people leaned over the rails and stared at him, and he hated fighting for food at mealtimes. One morning, Peppy looked around him. A penguin's life is not a happy one, he thought, and he stretched his wings and sighed. It was time for a change. That afternoon, a careless little boy dropped something into Peppy's enclosure. Down, down, down. It had an orange beak and a black coat and a plippy-ploppy feet, just like a penguin. But it wasn't quite the same. "Hi, my name is Poppy, and I'm a toy," she said. "And one that is not loved, for my owner has wandered off and forgotten about me already." "I'll be your friend, and I'll love you," said Peppy. And from that moment, the two were never far apart. One day, Poppy told Peppy about Santa Claus, who had given her to the little boy. "He lives at the North Pole," she said. "There are reindeer and polar bears there. The sea is frosty cold, and the whole land is covered in ice and snow. I'd love to see Santa again. Perhaps then he would give me to someone who really loved me." When Peppy thought of the land of ice and snow, his feathers began to tingle. Suddenly, he knew that was where he belonged. "Let's fly to the North Pole," he cried. "If you want to see Santa Claus again, you shall." It was a dangerous but exciting plan. All morning, Peppy did exercises to strengthen his wings. Peppy borrowed some extra feathers from a seagull, and Poppy tied them to his wings. When he was ready, he climbed to the top of the penguin slide and leaped off. Whoops! It was no use. He had forgotten that penguins can't fly. They decided to hide in the zookeeper's fish bucket. "When it's taken back to the sea," said Poppy, "we can jump out and stow away on a ship." So after the next feeding time, the two friends hid in the keeper's empty bucket. Soon they were rattling along in the back of a big truck. The journey lasted a day and a night. When the truck finally stopped, the driver was astonished to see two small penguins leap out and run away. "Which ship for the North Pole?" cried Poppy. "Over there," replied a passing seagull. Poppy and Peppy were soon aboard and on their way across the ocean. After 3 stormy days and nights at sea, Poppy noticed that the air was turning colder. Peppy looked through a porthole. There were lumps of ice floating on the sea. "We're here!" he cried. Poppy climbed onto Peppy's back and clung on tightly while he bravely leaped from the porthole. Nothing could stop them now. The two friends swam ashore. "I'll have to go," said Poppy tearfully, and her little beak quivered. "I must catch Santa before he sets off for Christmas Eve." "Goodbye and good luck," said Peppy sadly. "I'll miss you." Peppy wandered off. He loved the feeling of the smooth, cold snow on his toes and the cool, fresh air under his wings. Very soon he met some polar bears. "Good afternoon, friends," he said politely. "Can you tell me where the penguins live?" "Penguins? Penguins?" cried the polar bear in their loud voices. "What are penguins?" "I'm a penguin," said Peppy proudly. The bears looked him up and down. "We've never seen anything like you before," they said. Uh-oh. Peppy began to cry. "But I know that penguins live in the land of ice and snow," he moaned. The polar bears just laughed at him and wandered off into the white mist. Now Peppy felt very lost and alone. Hours passed. Peppy could see nothing but the great white world that stretched on forever. All of a sudden, he thought he could hear a sound, a lovely jingling sound, like little bells. Who's coming? And there, through the mist, came Santa Claus on his sleigh. And best of all, Poppy was sitting beside him, waving. Santa gently lifted Peppy aboard his sleigh. "You are right. Penguins do come from the land of ice and snow," he said, "but they live at the South Pole and not the North Pole. I'll take you there." Santa drove his reindeer across the wintry sky, over the sea and far away. As they flew over the zoo, Peppy could see all of his old friends. "They will never know the frosty sea and feel the cold, smooth snow under their toes," he said. Sadly, "if only they could come too." "And so they will," replied Santa, "for on Christmas Eve he can make wishes come true." Santa flew his sleigh into the zoo, and every penguin, from the biggest to the smallest, climbed aboard, and off into the sky and across the world they flew to the South Pole. All the penguins of the South Pole had gathered to welcome them, as if they knew they were coming. "Here is your real home," said Santa Claus. He gave each penguin a special present. "And this is your real home too," he said to Poppy, "for I think you have found someone who really loves you." And he was gone. The end. Bye-bye. See you next time.